Hi, I'm Don, and this is the Hobbyist Geek. Welcome back, y'all. So today we are doing another viewer suggestion, once again from Bob Holleran, who suggested the ROKR Space Shuttle kit. And frankly, this thing looks amazing. I can't wait to get this thing out. So let's bring in, take a look at the packaging, see what comes inside. And here is the packaging for this piece, and look at this. Look at how amazing it is. We got the shuttle, we got the gantry. This should be amazing. There is some motion here. I can't wait to see how that works. 446 pieces and a 5 out of 6 difficulty. On the back side, get a little bit of a broken down view. Something we're going to be doing real soon, and a few other options. All right, let's break this thing out and see what is in here. Okay, cellophane off, and oh, this is a tight box. There we go. All right, so we've got our instruction set here. Not too shabby. Looks like we've got 42 pages of instructions. Okay, we have. Is this all? Oh, this is all encased. Okay. So we have some sort of plastic film here. That's clearly some sandpaper. And of course, our wood, which we will lay out here momentarily. We have, I don't know, some sort of tissue paper. I don't know if this is going to be needed or not. A little bit of plastic. So looks like the nose of the shuttle here and some gears, sanding board in case you don't have your own, the motor which will power everything. All right, we've got clippers for the plastic bits, some pins, screws, screwdriver, whatever the heck that thing is. I'm guessing it's going to be a light. Very, very, very cool. Another one of these. I don't know if this is packing material or not. If it is, it's weird packing material, but okay. Oh, there's a second motor here. Well, that should be interesting. Our control board, some switches, and our LED string right there. A few more plastic parts. Look at that. There's the cockpit or cabin, and another gear here, and some clear washers. Very nice. Uh-oh, there's our wax. We won't be needing that. But that is it. Okay, for tools, got Eileen's tacky glue. With ROKR products, I typically don't need this, but I've got it on standby just in case. Some Impressa wood lubricant. Now this has been rebranded. It is now Impressa drawer slide wax. It's got a red label instead. It's the same stuff though. Awesome. Highly recommended. And some 600 grit sandpaper. A magnifying glass just in case. And of course, my hobby screwdriver. Got us a box cutter just in case it's needed. Little hammer with a rubber tip. Again, just in case. And of course, the tweezer set. All right, let's get this wood laid out, see what we got. Alrighty, here is all of the parts laid out. We've got A, B, and the length of B here is kind of making things hard on organization, but that's okay. C, D, E, I think that's E. No, that's F. Oh, this is E. That's F. G, H, and then we skip I, go straight to J, and then K, along with all of the stuff that we've already detailed out. So let's go ahead and get some parts out and get started on this thing. Hi there. Before we get into today's build, this is your reminder to like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel the content is worth it, you can join our membership right here on YouTube, where you'll have access to all of my videos as soon as they are uploaded, typically months in advance. And now, back to the build. Alrighty, so as with most ROKR builds, this is broken up into steps, and then each step is broken up into various phases. So here's what we're going to need for step 1, phase 1. The phases are not really designated, so I probably won't stick with that, but we will at least know we're at some point in step 1. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take F2, which has all of these beautiful designations on it. Big F2 right on there. And then we've got F3 here, which will go into these 3 holes from the underside, just like that. And then we've got 2 F4s, which will go into the side holes, just like that. And then we cover the bottom with F1, just like this. Beautiful, huh? Now, what's very weird is they do showcase that a lot of these switches here are going to be placed inside of this, but in what way, I don't know. And it looks like when you push it in, it actually completes the connection. It completes the contact here, okay? And what we're going to do here is test the electronics. So we're going to take this assembly here, which is the lamp string assembly, and it's got 2 switches, one on red and black, one on yellow and white. Red and black goes in T1, yellow and white goes in T2. So we're just going to slide the cables through that slit there, just like this, and it should create that connection. Same for the other one. Just like so. And then we'll follow it up with the lamp board switch for T3. So it should look like that. Now we're going to pull out our circuit board here. And take note, right there is the power source. That is a USB-C port for the power source. So we're going to take our lamp string, that is this one, and that'll go into this big port right there. Just like so. And we've got our lamp board here, which will go into this port here. This is our starting switch. That'll go into this port here. Just like this. All right. Now you've got your 2 motors, okay? Motor 1 has the yellow and white cable. Motor 2 has the red and black. Motor 1 will plug in right here, just like that. Motor 2 will plug into this port here. All right, now I have this beautiful USB-C battery. Currently says 99% charged, so that's good. We're going to plug this thing in. Look at that. Our lights are already on. And now we're going to push the start switch. Okay. Well, it looks like only one of my motors is functional here. So let me play with this and see if I can figure out what's going on. Okay, so motor 1 is working. It's weird because you're supposed to pull these out and then put them back in to test everything. And so you can see we've got flashing lights, we've got all this stuff. I don't fully understand the configuration here. Now we've got motor 2 working. So everything is functional. So I'm going to have to go with it and hope we're good. It doesn't say, but I'm reasonably sure that this is all strictly a test configuration. I think this here is designed to hold these pieces, hold those switches in, and that's it. I don't think this is going to be used for the actual final assembly. And I think that also means that we're going to have to disconnect all of our electronics here so we can move forward. But it would appear our test is successful. So let me clean this up. We'll get started on phase 2. All right, here's what we're going to need for the next part of step 1. I'm going to kick things off with K5. Look at that beauty. All right, it should be in this orientation. The printed K5 will be on top. Now note, I'm not sure where they went. There they are. Okay, these slots right here. Okay, that's what we're going to be playing with right now. We're going to start with F9 here. The F9 print will be facing the top. So it will be in this orientation and it'll go into these 3 slots. We'll just push it in and then pull it back to lock it. Okay. Now you've got these 2 little slots right here and here. And those will be for F13. And in this case, the F13 printing will be facing you. So we'll just lock that in too. Okay, so it should look like that when you're done. Now, we're going to take F8 here, printed side facing out, and it'll go into that slot right there. Just like that. Helps lock things in. Then we've got F5, printed side facing you. It'll go into these 2 slots. This one will push all the way through to create another tab on the bottom. Just like that. And from there, we will take K4 with the K4 label facing down. Okay, and it will come in underneath and connect into this tab and this tab. There we go, just like that. And now all of this is locked in place. That is the end of that phase. Let's check the next one. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for the next phase of step 1 here. Now, one thing that is curious is that there's no mention of wax whatsoever. And we're going to have some wood on wood motion here. This is going to go here and start spinning. So I'm going to put some wax on it. All right, we're going to kick things off with Z4. This comes off of that plastic sprue. This is part 4. And I'm going to put some wax all around the cylinder here. Okay. And then we're going to push it through this hole from this side, just all the way through, just like that. Now, I'm going to take this is F7, and I'm going to just wax the back side of it, just like that. And in that cross-shaped hole, we've got the cross-shaped pin right there. We're going to fit it in and just push it in tight. There we go, nice and neat. And now we have F6 here, printed side facing out, and that will just sit on top. And then we're going to put a screw in there. This is one of the P1 screws to hold everything together. Okay, should look like that when you're done. Make sure you've got nice, smooth motion. And I do. Awesome. All right. Just make sure this is as tight as I can make it. Oh, little room left. There we go. All right, with that done, we've got 2 F15s, and this is F14. Note, there's no design on one side. There is a printed border on the other, printed side facing out. We take our F15s, and we're basically just going to slot it in here. So just like this. Ooh. There you go, just like that. Same for the other side. Just like that. And now you've got 2 tabs on the bottom that'll go into these 2 holes right there. All right. Look at that. Spectacular. All right, that's the end of that phase. Let's see what's next. All right, here are the parts we're going to need for the next phase. So we'll bring our base back out again. And we're going to kick things off with K1 here. In this case, the K1 label will be facing left. So it'll push all the way through, just like so. And now you've got a tab on the bottom, and that is for K3, which will go in right here, just like so. All right, now we've got F19, which will go into this slot right here. Just like that. And we've got F9 here. With F9 facing you, it's going to go into these 3 slots and lock in place, just like before. Boom, just like that. And here's F16. This tab here will go into this slot, and then this tab, or excuse me, that slot and this slot, those are going to go into this slot here and this slot here. And there you go. So everything is nice and aligned. This is still a little flaky because this has got a bend, but I'm sure it will lock in place with some additional support later. But that is the end of that phase. Let's see what's next. All right, here's what we're going to need for the next phase. And if I haven't mentioned it before, please make sure that you properly sand all of these wood pieces down as you release them, or you might end up in a position like me right now, where I was so eager to record, I forgot to sand them, and then you'll end up with burrs all over the place. So let's make sure we got a nice clean build, everyone. All right, with everything properly sanded, we can start throwing some stuff in. What we're going to do first, there's these little pins here and here. And we're going to take F29 for this pin. Beautiful. And F28 for this pin. So make sure the printed side is facing out. You've got this little angled edge here. That should also be facing the outside on both sides. And from there, we can take F17, and it says printed side. So F17 facing out, and that'll go into this back slot here, just like that. And we're going to follow that up with F20, with that center slot going into this big slot right here. There we go. Those little slots on the side will go around these little tabs to keep everything nice and lined up properly. Look at that. Now we're going to take K15. And which one is this? This is P12. And there's two little screw holes on it. We're going to line them up with those two screw holes in the center, just like this, with the cable coming down this way. And we're going to throw in a P2 screw, one into each of those holes. Look at that. Alrighty, here's what you're going to need for this next phase. Set this to the side for the second. Pull this back out along with this. What you're going to want to do is take these cables right here, push them up through this big hole, and then bring them down this slot underneath this and out the back. So it should look something like this when you're done. And this piece here should have screw holes that line up with those four holes. So if you've got it just right, what you're going to want to do is take M10. This is from that black film thing. We're basically just going to set it over top to hold those cables down that path. And those screw holes should also line up. And we're going to use P1 screws. You're going to need 4 of them to hold everything in place. All right, should look like that when you're done. And then you can bring your cable through here. And you've got this is F18. That'll go on either side of the cable and into that slot. It's just an added bit of security to ensure the cables go where they are supposed to go. Just like that. Absolutely spectacular. All right, with that done, we're going to take F26 here, and let's see, yeah, okay, printed side will be facing over here, and it will go into, yeah, you got 3 tabs here, going into this slot, and that slot way over there. So let's get that done. All right, there we go. And as before, there are little slots here and here that will go onto this to help stabilize and hold everything in place. And with that done, we're going to take F30 here, big slots here, and that is for this big tab and this big tab, and the rest should line up all down line. All right, there you go. Look at that. So these are in, and as you can see, it goes around nice and neat, and these slots right here line up just fine with those tabs. We're good to go. That phase is complete. All right, not much for this next phase, so we'll kick things off with F10. By the way, just in case you didn't know, these cables are supposed to come up before they go under this, okay? So they come up and over. I have a feeling they're going to go like over this way or something, but we'll figure all that out as it goes. I'm going to start with F10 here. And in this orientation, it's going to go right into this center slot. Just like that. Underneath, we've got 2 of these K8s. Pretty sure it doesn't matter which is which, but basically this tab and this tab is what it will go over. And then the same on the other side. There you go. We're just making some feet for our piece here. And in the process, additional security to lock this thing in. All right, let's see what's next. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for the next phase. Then we're going to bring this back out. This actually will make a useful tool. We're actually going to go a little ahead here. We're going to take this pin. This is P5, one of the 20 millimeter pins. You can just put it in here, which will help hold it stable. Okay, you put it on your table here, and you're good. Now this is G30. This is another tool. Note this little slot right here. That's perfect, because what we're going to want to do is take one of these P16 washers. We're going to put it on top of that pin and then use this slot to push it down exactly the right amount. So when you're done, you can see there's just a little excess pin up here, and that is the perfect spacing. So awesome. All right, now we're going to bring this back out, and effectively what's going to happen is our power cord is going to come up here, and then the switch is going to come back a little bit. I'm going to take our switch, I'm going to place it up against K10 here, okay? Note the orientation, okay? So take note that the open end of the switch will be facing here, which I'm designating as the bottom. The switch itself will be where this cutout is. Okay, and we've got 2 screw holes here, which will line up with 2 screw holes on this. And we're going to use P1 screws through the switch and into K10 to secure it in place. Should look like that when you're done. All right, with that done, we're going to take K12 here, and we're going to put the longer tab through that hole right there, just like that. And we're going to take the pin that we just created, we're going to push it through here so that the washer is aligned. All right. Oh, there we go. Now we're going to take K6 here, and we're going to wax both of these sides. So let's get those things waxed. All right, with both sides waxed, we're going to basically pick a hole. It doesn't really matter which, and we're going to push that pin through, just like so. And then we're going to take K9 here, and big hole on that center pin, little hole for the metal pin, just like this. Okay, and now we're going to put another one of those P16 washers on this end, and we're going to use our G30 tool to space it just right. And look at this. Okay, make sure this is moving pretty smooth. It is. It shouldn't be flopping around, but it's moving smoothly. So we should be good there. Excellent. All right, we got our switch out. Everything is looking great. And that ends this phase. Alrighty, here are the pieces that we're going to need to finally finish off step 1 of this build. Let's kick things off with P6. That is a 30 millimeter pole here. And we're going to throw another washer on here. Same spacing as before, so make sure to use your tool. All right, with that in place, we're going to take F32 right through that little hole there. Then F27 again through the hole. Now we're going to bring this out. This is K7. K7 is going to go in between here and line up with those holes. And then we're going to push this through all 3. Get it all nice and lined up, just like that. And now we basically reverse it. So, here it is. F27, F32, and then we will put on another P16 washer and space it appropriately. There you go. Everything is in nice and neat. Did not call for wax this time. I'm a little concerned about this K7 piece, but it is moving pretty smooth right now. So we'll see how all of that plays out, but it seems to be okay for now. Now we're going to take F42, and these 2 tabs here are going to go through these 2 large holes there with the switch facing the open side. Just like that. Okay, with that in place, we have F31, and that'll go in here, and then another one on the other side. There we go. So you can see it's all nice and locked in place. With that done, we've got F25 printed side facing out. It'll go into this slot here, just like this, all the way through. Boom. And F22 printed side out on the other side, just like that. Now, oh, look at that. I did mess up a little bit. This cable needs to go into this gap too, and I kind of messed that up. So I'm going to push this out. We'll fix that. Not a problem. All right, there we go. Look at that. The cable's coming through nicely. Now, note the gap where it is. This right here is the F22, and these cables coming out need to go into that little clip there. So, should come out like that when you're done. We can flip it back over, and now you've got all of these various holes that are going to go onto these tabs. So these 2 tabs here will go into these 2 holes, and everything else should line up. All right, there we go. Look at that. So 1 tab goes in here, 1 tab here, 1 tab here. This is still a little loose, which is fine. We haven't finished building yet, but that is where we're at. Now we've got 2 of these F33s. They're going to come in here and push through these holes from the inside. Just like that. And this, my friends, is the end of step 1. So that was awesome. I cannot wait to see what's next. So let's see what step 2 has in store. Alrighty, y'all. Here are all of the parts we're going to need for every phase of step 2. We can actually fit them all here, so awesome. All right, what we're going to do is take K18 here, and then we have 2 K19s, okay? And this bottom hole here, we're basically going to push it through as far as it'll go. Okay? And you can do the same on the other side and make sure that the same orientation for both. Just like that. Okay? And with that done, we're going to take F11. That's these puppies. We're going to put those on either side. Now, they're not going to go all the way down, I don't think. Nope. Just that far. Okay? So, let's get our F11s in there. Just that far. And then we're going to cover them with these F12s. So you should have an assembly that looks like this. And now you want to get wax around the edge of those F12s. Both sides. All right, there we go. And then we're going to set this to the side for the moment. And what we're going to do is bring out, here we go, F38. We're going to take P7, that's this little lampshade here. Now on the bottom of P7 there are 2 pins. Those are going to go into these 2 center holes. Now, I don't know that it matters which direction, but the way they've got it in the instructions, the F38 branding will be facing down. We'll put the pins in just like so. And from there, we're going to take F23. I'm just going to push this right through there. Maybe without popping it off like I just did. There we go, just like that. Make sure the screw holes align on either side. And you're going to take E2 here and put this on top, just like this. Again, lining up the screw holes. And we've got 2 P1 screws that'll go on the holes on either side. All right, look at that. Now this we're going to set to the side as well for the moment. What we're going to do is take K16 here, note the arrow, printed on both sides. Okay. And we're going to take 2 of these F24s. Note the arrow and where the gears are. Note the arrow on this. This arrow will go into K16, just like so. And then we're going to do it again right here with another F24, just like that. Now we're going to take K17 right here, and in these lower holes here, okay, we're going to put this in. Note the arrow direction. Should go all the way through just like that, so you still have some tabs. And now this tab is sticking out the bottom. And then we're going to take F35, and with the F35 label facing our assembly here, we're going to put it into these 2 holes on the bottom. Look at that. Now get some wax all in these gears here. All right, there we go, all waxed up. And this assembly is ready to rock, and we can set that to the side. And we're going to do everything we just did again for the other side. Most of the parts are the same too. So we're going to need another K16, another K17, 2 more F24s, and then this is F34. The only real difference is we're going to kind of reverse it so that it is on the other side. So it should look like that. Note the slight angle here. So when they are placed like this, with these pieces on the inside, that angle, everything should match up. The angle here, the hole here, everything should match up with the spokes on the outside there. So we get some wax in here and we'll move on. All right, there we go. Next up, we're going to start putting things together. So what we're going to do is take this assembly. Notice the angle. Notice the arrow. Okay. So it should be like this with the spokes on the left side and the angle towards you. We're going to take this assembly, and these two big tabs here are going to go into these two big slots right there. Just like that, all the way through. Now we're going to take this assembly, and it's going to go right into this hole here. Note that the small cap there goes inside the hole, just like that. Make sure that it rotates with the wax. And on this tab here, we're going to go ahead and put in F36. Now, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but the two spokes on F36 there do align directionally with these here. All right, there we go. Whew. That was harder to get in than it seems, but it's in now. And now we're going to cover up the other side with this and put another one of those F36 caps on that peg there. And there we go. Make sure that it is moving nice and smooth. All right. With that done, we're going to take this. This is F21. Make sure the printed side is facing up. You got two holes. There's a peg here and a peg here. Bingo. Look at that. And now we're going to bring this out. Now, it doesn't say to do this, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to get some wax on these little tabs here and maybe along the bottom, because this is going to slide along this, and these tabs are going to go inside these slots here. And I just want to make sure that we've got some smooth operation, and you can never go wrong with too much wax. So let's get that waxed up too, just to be safe. All right, so with this all waxed up, we're going to take those pegs. They're going to go into these slots, and these gears here are going to line up with this geared wheel here. So we'll just put it in kind of at an angle until we can get those tabs in. Bingo. All right. And then we'll just push this puppy in. That is kind of tight, though. I will give it that. That is a very tight fit. That is a very, very tight fit. And I note that the outer side of this is also rubbing against the wood here as well on both sides. So it might be worthwhile to get some wax in there too. It is smooth. Let's see if we can't make it a little smoother, shall we? Okay, that is much better. Still gets a little tight towards the end, but it's much smoother, so we should be okay. Look at that. Beautiful. All righty, with that done, what we're going to do is take another one of these 20 millimeter pins, okay, another washer. We're going to place this thing on here, use our tool to ensure it's spaced properly, just like that. And now we're going to take this, we're going to bring it up, and this little excess piece right here, rotate it around so that hole goes into, lines up with that hole, and then we're going to push the pin right through it. Just like that. And now we're going to put another washer on the other side. Perfect. Now, look at that. See how that works? That's pretty cool. You got to admit, that's pretty cool. All right. All right, with that done, let's see what's next. All right. So, we're going to take F-37 here. Printed side facing towards you. This in this orientation. It's going to go into these two holes right here. All the way through. So you should have some pegs on the bottom once it's through. Just like that. And now F40, I believe it's this one, is going to go into this angled hole here. Note that F40 and F41, one has a thicker tab, one has a thin tab. I believe F40 is the thicker tab. Yep, fits perfectly right in there. Just like that. And now we're going to take K11 and that will go in underneath onto those three tabs we just created into this hole, and that hole. Just like that. Spectacular. Now we got F41, again printed side facing outward. It's going to go into that angled hole right there. Just like that. On the bottom, you should have these two pegs sticking out. And you're going to take K13, and that will go into those two pegs. Just like that. And now we have completed step 2. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? That's pretty cool. All right. Let's see what's next. All right, since we're dealing with some larger pieces and the electronics, I'm breaking out step 3 into its phases. So let's go ahead and do this. This is step 3, phase 1. Okay, we're going to start with G18 here. And I seem to have missed a piece. Right off the bat, this K2 piece. So let's pop this puppy out, get her sanded. All right, just like that. And we've got the small motor. This is the red and black, okay? And what we're gonna do, if we can, let's see here. There we go. Okay, we're gonna put K2 on just like this. Note that the wires are coming out the left side when you're looking at it like this. We're going to take G18, we're going to put that over and make sure that these screw holes align. And we're going to use these P4 bolts from here all the way through to hold it in place. All right, there we go. Just make sure your orientation is correct. So you've got your spacer that goes here, but it is clear on this side, hollow on that side. Cables coming off to the right when you're looking at it from the back. And you've got these tabs in this orientation from the front. Now, we're going to take G1 here and note these 3 holes, okay? Those will line up with the 3 holes on this circuit board. This circuit board is P14. And so it'll go basically like this. Okay? Here's the caveat. Okay, we're going to be using P2 screws to hold it in place, but you got to get these A10 spacers in between. So if you're careful, you can line your spacers up. First, set the circuit board on top and then screw it in. So let's go ahead and make that happen. All right, there you go, just like that. Spacers are in place. I don't know if you can see that. And that's what it'll look like from the other side. Now, we're going to take this assembly and effectively what's going to happen is this whole section here is going to slide through that slot. So you've got a tab on this side here and one over here, which will fit into its holes. Everything else just kind of sliding through. Just like that. Wonderful. All right, let's see what's next. Before I forget, the cable also has to come through that hole, so it'll be coming out the bottom. I assume it'll be plugged in here, but the instructions do not indicate that we're going to be plugging it in just yet. So we'll leave it for the moment, but that's where it was before. Makes no sense why it wouldn't go in there now, but we'll see. You know what? I've read a little further in advance, and I'm just going to plug this in. This doesn't make any sense as to why there's no instruction to do so, but you're definitely going to want to plug this in now. So let's just go ahead and plug that cable in right there, and then we'll move on. All right, here are the pieces we're going to need for the next two phases of step 3 here. Note, I've not taken anything out of the sprue on Z. We're going to need gears 1, 2, and 6, but they look so similar in size and everything. I don't want to get them confused and accidentally put the wrong one in. So I will cut those out as we get to their installation. For now, what we're going to do is take C2, and this is P13, our little switch here. You can see those two little holes right there. Those will line up with those two holes. Make sure the switch is in this orientation. And we're going to go ahead and attach it right now. We're going to use P1 screws for the attachment. Look at that. Awesome, huh? And now, we're going to bring this back out. And you've got this tab here and this big tab here. And those are going to go into this slot and this slot. So it should go in much like this. Okay, and you've got your little switch right here. And I guess, well, it doesn't say which direction. But it doesn't even tell you to push this in right now. Okay, wait, there it is. There it is. All right, they've kind of hidden it. So yeah, it's going to go into this slot, and you want to go through this rounded hole right there, just like that with the cable, and then we will push this in. There we go. Just like that. Whew. All right, let's see what's next. All right. Let's take, okay, this is F39 here. And this is P19. And this little part there is going to go in here. It's not actually going to hold it. So, but this P19 is going to go through this hole onto the motor peg. There we go, just like that. And this is supposed to go in like this, but we're going to have to put in a couple more pieces here. So we're going to start with Z2. So let's cut out gear number 2 here. Make sure you don't have any burrs on the spokes. This looks pretty much the same on either side. So, okay, so 2 will go in here, just like that. Okay, make sure the spokes align. 1 will go into the next hole. So let's go cut out Z1. So that'll go like that. Then we will finish this off with Z6 in this final hole. Just like that. Note that Z6 has a post only on one side. That post is going to go into that hole, just like that. And that is where this F39 will come in and cover this up on the other post. There we go, just like so. All right, here's where things are going to get interesting. We have these pegs and these pegs. Those will go into these rear slots here and here. You got these 2 pegs here, which will go here, and then these pegs here, which will go here. You should have all of this connected, and now you're going to want to take this cable and you're going to connect it right here as you're doing this. So let's get this plugged in and then try to push everything down. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Okay, there we go, all plugged in. Now let's get this settled down. Wow, holy crap, that was fun, but it's in now. There are 2 more pegs here and here that will also go in to help keep everything secure, but it's all in now. Spectacular. All right. Now what we're going to do is take Z3 here, and with Z3, that big post is going to punch through this hole here, and these gears should line up with these spokes right there. Bingo. Just like that right there. And then you're going to want to come in from the back, I know it's going to be really hard to see, but way down, right in there. And you're going to want to put another P1 screw in there to hold that gear in place. All right, there we go. That phase is complete. Whew. Now, again, I don't know if this makes a difference or not, but the instructions do show that this is fully retracted. So that is how I am assembling it. Hopefully that will not lead to problems later. Let's find out. Alrighty, here are the parts we'll need for the next phase. Let's bring our base back out again. Note these 4 holes along the bottom. In the outer holes, which are a little further back, we've got G2. And this tab here will slot into there. So let's get that in. Just like that. And in the outer holes, we have G3. Make sure the printed side is forward. Or I should say inner holes. There we go. And then this will slot in here. Just like that. Very, very, very nice. Now, we're going to start surrounding this here. I'm going to start with G8, and that'll go into this hole right here. Just like that. G6. note the orientation, okay? So large hole towards the top, little hole on the left, and that'll go into that hole right there. Just like that. With G7 on the other side, this time the little hole will be on the right, just like that. Now we're going to take G4, label side facing up, G5 here, and these two holes in the bottom will line up with the holes on G4. And G10, which will push through all of that. So you're left with this. Now these two tabs will go into those two holes behind this piece, just like that. Now we're going to cover it with G9, label side up, so that it looks like that. Okay, so the tabs there are in this hole, and this hole. All right. And from there, we're going to take G11, and that'll go in this wide hole here. Bingo. And that ends that phase. Not quite done yet. We're getting there. We're getting there. Almost there. Alrighty, here are the parts that we need to finish off step 3. Okay, we're going to take G13. We've got 2 of these tiny little G12s here. And the wide part of the T is going to go into these holes right here. Just like that. Okay, so you should still have little pegs here. And that is where G14 is going to go. Note the darker line here. Line that up with this stripe. So it should look like that. Those 2 pegs there. These 2 holes right here. Look at that. All right. Now we're going to take 2 G15s. Note the printed side. Those need to be facing outward. Those will go into these 2 holes, one on either side. And then we will cover it with G19 here. And now we have that. All right. And that, my friends, is the end of step 3. What a doozy that one was, huh? Alrighty, also step 4 is a very big step. So what we have here are the parts we're going to need for the first 4 phases. So let's just get into this because this is going to be a big one. We're going to kick things off with G17 in this orientation. Okay, label facing up, and this tab also facing away from you. And in these 2 slots here, we have G16. I'm going to take the wide end and just kind of slide it in there so that we leave the tab out, just like that. Then we're going to take M2, and we've got 2 of these, and we're going to put one right here on that tab, just like that, and the second one will go on this tab. There we go, just like that. That is a little bit of a tight fit, and these do like to kind of slip out, so be careful. And from there, we're going to take G20, and these 2 holes on top will go onto those tabs. Perfect. Look at that. All right, from there, we're going to take G21, and that is going to go into this little slot here and this little one here, and this larger area is going to be for this panel. So in this orientation, just slide it in like that, so you've got the little panel on the back. Then we're going to take G22. That's going to go into these two slots. One tab is wider than the other, so it should only go one way. Boom, just like that. All right, now we're going to take this P15. This is our lights here, and the switch that has the red and, well, the red cable coming out and then goes straight into the lights. That's the one we're going to want, not the one with the yellow and white. Okay. And we're going to put this in onto this tab with the switch itself coming through this hole like that. Okay. So line it up. You've got your two holes here that should line up with two holes on that panel. We're going to put in P1 screws to hold it in place. All right. Should look a bit like that when you're done. Make sure the switch clicks. All right. Now we're going to take C11. Note the arrow. The arrow should be pointing to the left. We're going to take C7 here. We're going to put this on. And again, make sure the orientation is right. Okay, you put it like this, then the switch will be facing, or the lever will be up. You want it facing down. So, just like that. We're going to take the other C7 here and we're going to put it on the other side. Same orientation. Just like that. Very cool. That is where we take G27 here. We're basically going to push those through the holes here. Just like that. Okay? That is a bit of a tight fit. I'm not sure if I like doing that without any kind of wax, but that is, the directions do not call for wax. So that is where we're at. Okay, now we're going to take G24 here. Label facing away from the assembly. It'll plug in here. These two holes for these tabs, and then this hole here for that tab. Okay, like that. Make sure this is facing up. And then we're going to take G25. That's going to go on the other side, same orientation. Just like that. Let's move this up and down to make sure we've got some good motion here. This is working. This is working. All right. So with that done, we're going to take C5 here. All right. And C5 is going to go onto here. Note this little cutout. Okay. So with the switch in the down position, okay, that little cutout should face upward, just like that. All right, should look like that when you're done. And then on these tabs here, we have G26. Boom, just like that. Okay, that'll work. That'll work. All right. So with that done, we're going to take these 4 tabs on the back. I'm going to slide them into these 4 slots. All right. So if you're looking at this, when you push this up, that little thing there should depress the switch. Okay, so this should be off. That would be on. Okay. With that in place, you can take G23 here. And we're going to place that into these two remaining slots there, just like this. Bingo. Look at that. All right. Now, we're going to take G28, and in this orientation, we're going to take the, what is this? This is P10, the other motor, all right? Note where the cable is, okay? And that'll go right through this hole here, just like that, and line up these holes with these holes here, just like so. And we've got two more of these P4 bolts that'll come in from this side to hold it in place. So let's go ahead and get those in. All right, should look like that. Now we're going to want to wax the inside of that hole. So let's get that done. Beautiful, all nice and waxed up. Then we're going to bring this back out. And this post here and this one here, those will go into these two holes. There we go. Should look like that when you're done. And here's where things get fun. We're going to bring this back out again. Note you've got two plugs here. This one for the lights, this one for the motor. Motor, lights. So you're going to want to plug those in. Then you've got three tabs here on the bottom. Those will go into these three slots. And then you have these two slots right here that'll go onto these two tabs right here. So let's see if we can balance everything and get it all together. All right, so it should look like this. You've got all your extra cables, the switch, the lights coming out of this gap, and everything should be nice and secure. Beautiful. And that is the first 4 phases of step 4. So let's get some more parts out and move on from there. Alrighty, here are the parts we're going to need for the next 4 phases of step 4 here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our piece back out and try not to make a mess of things. And we're going to start with G33, this one. And this tab right here is going to go into that rear tab right there, just like that. Then we're going to take G34, that's this piece, and those 2 tabs on the bottom will go into these 2 slots right there. All right, so it should look like that when you're done. Very cool. Now, we're going to take G29 here, and these 2 little slots on the outer edge will go into these 2 tabs right here. And then there's 2 more slots right here, which will go into these 2 tabs right there. All right, just like that. Note that this platform here I don't know if you can see that, but this little platform goes behind this, and this will actually go into a little slot that's right there as well. So looking very nice. Now we've got G31 here, and this big tab on the bottom will go into that slot right there. Doesn't actually say which direction the label should go. I'm going to go ahead and put it towards this gantry, just to be on the safe side. Try to hide it, you know. There we go. Don't think it matters. And then we've got G32 here, and that will go into these two slots right there. Just like that. This is freaking looking awesome, to be honest. All right, now we're going to take H1. And this is going to go, there are 3 big tabs, one here, here, and here. And those will go into here, here, and over here. There you go, just like that. With that done, we're going to take G35 here. And you might notice way down deep, there's a hole right here. Okay, that is for this tab right there. And then this will sit in this curved area right there. So kind of like that. When you're done, note the slot right there. Okay, well, we are going to take this, and that slot is actually for this hollow right here. And then this slot will go in to that slot right in there. Should look like that when you're done. And this right here, when you push it, you should hear the switch click. So we've got that going for us as well. Very, very cool. I'm going to move this stuff to the side a little bit. When you pull out this many pieces, sometimes you don't have a lot of work room. Okay, so we're going to start with H3 here. What a beautiful little piece. And this tab here is going to go into this slot right here, just like that. And yeah, okay, so this is H2, and that will go into this center slot here, just like that. Okay, now we've got H4. Note the slight printing on it here, okay? That's going to go into, yeah, into this slot over here, with H5 that has the same printing but on the opposite side will go in this slot. Now, I don't know what the purpose of that printing is because it doesn't seem to match up to anything anywhere, but well, it's there. And from there we've got H6, and we've got a big tab here, and then these 3 little tabs for all 4 of those slots. Just like that. And you should be left with the little tab sticking out right there. Okay, next up, we have H7 here. And that's the label, so label side out. And it's supposed to go somewhere in here. I'm just not sure where. Okay, there it is. So it's going to come in that slot right there, and then there's a slot right here. Then it should go in, and this over here will hook inside of this. So it should look like that when you're done. Now we're going to take H11 here, and that'll go in that rear slot here, right there, and then into this slot here. Oh, and there's a slot right here for the other hook. Really going to hold everything together here. All right, there you go. Should look like that when you're done. Wow, that was a tight fit. All right, now we've got H14 here. You got these two hooks on either side. And looks like, yeah, okay. Make sure your cables don't interfere. There's some extra space here. So this is gonna slide in behind, it'll slide in behind this into these slots here. Just like that, look at that. And last but not least, we have H8, and okay, this one's going to be interesting. Let me review the instructions so I make sure I give you good ones. All right, so before we can get H8 in there, first thing we're going to do is actually straighten out our light string here. So if you haven't already, make sure you untwist it and get this thing straight. This is a long light string. Holy crap. Okay, well, we're going to have to make sure we get this all straightened out, because what we're going to do with this piece in this orientation, note the round hole right here. This light string is going to have to push up through there, and you're going to want to pull the entire string all through it. Now make sure your power cord, or your remaining switch goes through this gap. So you're going to want to make sure you don't interfere there. All right. And this should line up so that this big tab right here will go through this big slot right here. And then these two tabs here and the one behind it will also fit into slots here and here. All right, should look a little something like this when you're done. Note, this is the first light in the string. There actually is a little more cable below it. I don't think we're going to need it for sure. I mean, I don't know for sure. It doesn't look like we're going to need it, and it's harder to pull that out. But that is the first light in the string. So all of the lights have come up through that hole, and we are in place. Bear in mind, this little assembly here goes into this hook, okay? Just like that. So that is what it should look like. And that is the end of the second 4 phases of step 4. So let's see what's next. All right, given the difficulties we ran into last time, I'm going to stick with one phase at a time so I have some room to work. And these are the parts that we're going to need for the next phase of step 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this back out. And in these 2 holes here, the rear ones, we have H24 here. Note the arrows, okay? They should be facing down with this label facing you when you push them in. Just like that. And then in the front 2 holes, we have H26. Printed side facing you. So it should look like that. And then in the 3 tabs that are on top, we have E1 in these 3 holes. Beautiful. Now we're going to take our lights here, and what you're going to want to do, you see those little hooks on there? You're going to want to bring it in on one side and out on the other, and make sure a light bead is sitting here in the front. So let's do that. All right, it should look something like that when you're done. The size of this light bead makes this a very difficult process. It's just that slight bit too large to make it fit easily. But we got it in. Awesome. All right, this next part's going to be, well, let's say interesting. Let's call it interesting. Basically, we got M5 here, and there are some little dotted areas where you can do a bend. Okay. And that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to bend them just a little bit. And these tabs on the bottom will go into these slots here. So let's see about getting that in. So it should look something like that when you're done. And then we have these H9s here. And that larger tab there will go into these holes here and here, with this angled part pushing out towards the M5 piece we just put in. So it should look a bit like that when you're done. Okay, and that is the end of this phase. Let's see what's next. Alrighty, here are the parts we need for the next phase. Before you really get started, take a look at that. That is the motor, and it is keyed. That post is keyed, and the way they've got it in the instructions, flat sides are left and right when it's in this orientation. I don't know that it's going to make a big difference, but it might. So I took some pliers here, just twisted it enough to get it nice and lined up. So what we're going to do is take H17 here and label facing the gantry, and that's going to go into this slot way over here. So it should look like that. Okay. And then we've got H16, and that's going to go on the other side, just like that. All right. Things are looking up. Now we're going to take this P20 part, and that is going to go over that post. Okay. Should look like that when you're done. It doesn't push all the way down. Okay. Just so that this is flush. Now we're going to take C20 here, and we've got two of these E18s, and the big post is going to go into those slots. You got two of them. Should look like that. And then we're going to cover that up with H15. Just like this, so that these holes all line up, okay? Now, you can see there's that keyed hole there. That's going to go on top of the piece we just put in, just like that. And that, my friends, is where another P4 is going to come into play. So let's screw that thing in. All right, with this screwed in, if you don't have pliers, you can turn this by hand to get it aligned just the way you want. So that's good too. So just make sure that it's aligned just like that. At least to follow the instructions. All right, now we're going to take C19 here, and it's going to go in here somewhere. It's going to go into this hole back here. That post, that little post, it's going to go into that hole. And then we're going to cover it with H12. You know what? We'll probably do this beforehand. Yeah. H12 first. then H13. There we go. So it's all the way down, just like that. And like I said, that little post is going to go into that little hole. There's nothing to secure it as yet, so it'll just sit there for now. And that's the end of this phase. So let's get some more parts out for the next one. Alrighty, y'all. So here's what we're going to need for the next phase. Push a lot of this to the side for the moment. Here's where things get interesting. Okay, we're going to take H22 here, printed side facing forward. Note this slot in the back. We're going to take our LED string here, and we're basically going to feed it through this slot, and it's all going to go through, and this tab here will go into that hole right here. So it should look a bit like that when you're done with all of the LEDs coming out the back side. All right, with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to take H34 here, and for these two circular holes, you're going to want to get some wax in there. So let's get some wax done. All right, with those all waxed, what we're going to do is we're going to slide this in, and it looks like this tower here is going to go through this slot. There we go, just like that. And we're going to bring her down. We've got some pegs over here. We've got some more right here, the two little ones here, and more throughout this whole assembly. And the lights and switch will come through this big gap right there. All right, so note this little tab here comes through that slot. There's a tab that goes in here. These two were the hardest to align because those pieces are a little more loose, but they are in, and then these two as well. And note the gears, how they go into those holes. So we should be good there as well. Awesome. Now we're going to take H20 here, and in this center tab right there, hope you can see it, it's right there. That's going to go into this hole here, and then this tab will go into the slot beneath. Should look like that when you're done. And to kind of finish this stage off, we're going to take H18 here, and that's going to go into these two slots, and H19 here, which will go into this slot. There you go. Look at that. I got to tell you, this one here, well, okay, it's tight enough. It went in really easy, and you can see it kind of flops around a little bit. May want to glue that one, but I'm going to hold off for now. I don't plan on turning this upside down anyway, so. But if it starts falling out, I know where the glue is going to go. All right, that ends that phase. Let's see what's next. All right, here's what we're going to need for the next phase. So let's set some of this to the side. We'll bring this back out. First, we got H41 here. H41 is going to go through this slot right here, this shorter slot, but wider. And then it'll plug into the hole that's in that tab there. So coming in from the outside, just going to push this thing through all the way. Look at that, nice and locked in place. Spectacular. Now, we're going to take C10 and C16. We're basically just going to put the two forks together like this. All right, all the way just like that. Now we're going to take C13 here, and you got these two square holes with circles printed around them, okay, in this orientation. That's where the longer posts are going to go. So let's go ahead and get those posts in, and then the shorter ones will go into the other two holes. All right, just like that. We're going to follow that up with H21. Again, the two circular holes over the longer posts. Well, not circular holes, but the ones with the circle printed around them. Just like that. Now make sure that you wax that gear really well. Look at that. Beautiful. And we're going to bring this back out. And I want to make sure, yeah, we've got the two square holes with the circles on them. Those are for the longer posts. Yeah, okay. And the little arrow on the gear here should be facing, well, really this way. So it should look like that. Okay. Now we're going to take H52 here, and that's basically going to sit on top of this. Just like this. This orientation is critical. All the way down. Okay, and you can see it does turn. Now we got C17, and again, the gears need to be waxed, and note the position of that arrow. All right, now we're going to slide this down on here, and this arrow should be pointing to the tab that arrow is pointing to should go into the slot that this arrow is pointing to. So it should be like that. All right, very important. All right, that is the end of this phase. Let's see what's next. All right, here are the parts we're going to need for this next phase. This should be fun. Okay, we're going to give ourselves a little room. Now, we've got two of these C3s. Note there's a long post and a short post. We'll bring us back out. There's a slot on either side of this post here. Long post going down in till it's flush. Should look like that when you are done. Now we're going to take H49 here, and that will go into this slot right here, just like that. And H48, that little tab, into that slot right there, just like that. Now we're going to take H31 here. There's two of them. We're going to take one of these H31s, and we've got H10, which will go into this slot right there, just like that, and H25, which will go into that slot. And then we've got H23 here, and that little tab there is going to go into that slot. So just like that. And we're going to take the other H31, and we're going to cover it up and plug it into all the same holes. Just like that. Look at that. Now this, it's got two tabs here on the bottom. Those will go into these two slots right there. All right, should look like that when you're done. Now we've got H47 here, And these two tabs will go into these two slots, followed by H46 with a tab into this slot. Should look like that when you're done. And we're going to finish it off with H51 into this slot. There you go. All right, that was a nice easy phase. Let's see what's next. All right, here we are with the parts for the next phase. Not too much here. Let's see what we're going to do. So we'll bring this back out again. And what we're going to do is take H50 here, and that is going to slide down on top just like this. So this big cross hole will go over this post, and everything else should line up. There you go. Look at that. Now note these tabs here. Well, you've got two H44s. Note large hole, small hole. Large hole will go on top. And you've got H45 here. This hole will be on the bottom. So got all kinds of holes. It does not specify whether or not the labeling should be inside or out. It looks like the labels should be facing the gantry here, so that is how I'm going to do it. All right, so there it is, just like that. Nice and clean, looking wonderful. I got to tell you, these went on very, very, very easily. I don't think they're not at risk of coming off, I don't think. But some of these pieces, I'm starting to get a little worried. I might have to start putting some glue on here because this is very loose. Wiggles very easy, very, very, very loose. I don't want to start putting glue until we've managed to test it, though, because I don't want to interfere with anything. All right. Next, we have two H28s. We're going to come around to this side. We've got these two slots here and here. That's where these are going to go. So let's go ahead and push those in. Should look a little something like that when you're done. And we can move on. All right, this next phase, not a lot of parts here. But first, things are going to get kind of fun. All right, down in here, you can see this slot right here that's got a little hook on it. You got another one on the other side, and we're going to take our lights, make sure that the switch doesn't interfere. We're going to bring them through those slots. Now see, this I don't know about because the instructions show a light bead directly in the center, but it also shows that the cable is very tight. Well, when it's tight, we've got a light bead right here, way over on that side. So, not sure if this will be good enough. I think it will. I think that one light should probably be sufficient. Let's keep it tight because I don't know how much slack we're going to need later on. But there we go. So now we've got that. Now we've got two of these H32s here. Note big tab, little tab. Big tab is going to go into this slot here, and then you got a second H32 for the other slot. Just like that. And now we've got H39. Now for H39, you're going to want to wax both of the round holes. All right, beautiful. Now that we've got those waxed, they're basically going to go over these posts here. So this big C16 pole right here, that's going to go through this hole here, and then this little post will go through this. But note that little round hole right there. That is for our light string. So let's go ahead and get that through too. All right, now we're going to attach these two tabs here, but note that this kind of wiggles a bit. In fact, it wiggles a lot. It is not secure yet. So we're obviously going to have to do some more to get this done. That is the end of this phase. Let's see what's next. Alrighty, here's what we need for the next phase. Not too much to speak of. So let's bring this back out. We're going to kick things off with C8 here. And that's going to go onto our big pole and push all the way down. So there you go. Note that it does go inside of the hole here. Then we've got H38. That'll go on this post here and again inside the hole there. There you go, just like that. Now we're going to take H40, and critically important on direction. Note the arrow, note this cutout and hollow. Make sure it's also sanded nice and properly, and it should go down like this. So it should look like that when you are done. And now we're going to take our last switch and we're going to screw it into those two holes right there. Before we get there, we do have H33. That'll go into this slot here to basically hold everything in place. And just push this in. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, there you go. That locking pin is in. Man, that was a hard thing to get in. Now we're going to take two P1 screws. We will attach our switch. Make sure this is the wide end of the switch. And let's go ahead and get that in too. All right, there you go. Should look like that when you are done. Whew. All right. Let's see what is next. All right. Here's what we're going to need for the next phase. Let's bring our boy back out. Now we're going to start with H43 in this large tab here. We'll go in here crossways, just like that. H42 will go on top of it, just like that. Now we're going to take our lights, okay, and we're basically going to wrap it around in the lower set of slots once. Then it'll come up, and on this larger area here, we're going to wrap it around there twice. So it should look a little something like that when you're done. All right. With all of that in place, we're going to take H29 and H30. They're basically going to fit together like this, slightly at an angle, and go into these two slots right there. So it should look a little something like that. And we've got H27 here, which will go into this slot here, kind of sliding through that, give it a little bit of structure and support. Just like that. All right, there's the end of that phase. On to the next. All right, here's what we'll need for the next phase. We're going to kick things off by bringing this puppy back out, and take note of these slots here. That is for M1. And again, there are dotted lines to help with the folds. So let's get this folded. And we're going to stick this into those slots just like that. Note the LEDs, I've got them coming out over on the side here, okay, just to keep them out of the way. Now we've got E4. Note there are 3 tabs, and this is slightly bendy. That's going to go into these 3 slots right there, just like that. Then we're going to take E5 and E6. And note the screw holes on both. We're going to line them up just like this. And we've got 2 P2 screws that'll go in there to hold it in place. Should look like that. And then these 2 tabs will go into these 2 slots. Just like that. Awesome. And now we have J1. Note that slot right there. Okay, that is for this tab. Okay, then this tab here will go into this slot way over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this in. There you go. Should look like that when you're done. And that should help stabilize things over here and help hold things in place. We're not quite stable yet, but it'll help. And that's the end of that phase. All right, here's what we're going to need for this next phase. We are still in step 4 here, y'all. So we're going to take J4 here. Note these 2 little tabs here. That is for J5. Note the angled ends here. That'll face the lower portion. So let's pop this in like that. Now we're going to take J2, and that's going to go onto this tab here, just like so. And we're going to follow that up with J7, which will go into this slot. Careful here, because that is a tight fit, and that does not feel very sturdy at all. So don't put pressure on here when you're pushing this down. All right, with that done, we're going to take J3, and this big slot will go around that T connector there. Just like that. And now this entire assembly is going to come over here into these slots right there. So it should look like that. Beautiful. With that done, we have these 2 J6s, and we're going to put them into these 2 slots right here. Let me get that in. All right, just like that. And we have reached the stage where we get to do some fun stuff. All right, y'all, it is time to test the electronics. So first, make sure you've got a power source plugged in back here. I clearly do. Then flip the switch up. All of the lights should come on. So that looks spectacular, actually. And with that done, what we're going to want to do is push this button. And look at that. And this moves all the way out. It does take a little bit to fully extend, but look at that. Then we're going to push it again and it should reset. Look at that. Now when that gets all the way in, it should trigger the switch and the gantry and everything should close. Let's find out. Oh, it did not close. Oh no. Do we have a problem? We might. Let me double check things and see how it goes. Okay, as it turns out, we do not have a problem. The big issue is the switch that's buried in here. It goes right between these posts. So when the gantry comes or when whatever this is called, comes all the way up, it's not triggering that switch. So that's what that problem was. Using a screwdriver to push it in, everything reset. Also important to note, the orientation of this post and the gantry. And note how they twist in order, and it should close the same way. Now, if you don't have a long enough screwdriver or don't want to mess with it, you can take part C14 and that'll go right in here, and that should help push that switch when it's in the upright position, but you'll have to remove it before you continue the build. But it looks like my electronics are working just fine. All right, still some stuff to do in step 4, so let's finish this thing off. All right, here are the parts we need for the next phase. Should be fairly simple. So we'll bring this right back out. Take note of these 3 slots right down here. H35 into slot 1 on the left. H36 printed side with the door down into the center slot. H37 into the right hand slot. Nice and neat. And now we have J8. Take note of the round hole here. That's right. This is where our light string is going to go. So let's go ahead and pull that through. All right. Now we've got these 3 holes here that'll go on to the tabs we just created, this big slot for this post here. And then this angled slot over here will go onto this piece right there. So let's go ahead and get all of that into. All right, should look like that when you're done, and that's the end of that phase. So let's see what's next. Alrighty, y'all. So here's what we're gonna need for the next phase. I'm gonna set this all to the side for the moment, because first we got to deal with our light string. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our light string, we're going to push it underneath this post, up on the other side. Then it'll come around, go underneath and up again through the next gap. So it should look a little something like that. Then note this little cavity here. Okay, you're going to want to wrap this in 3 times around there. So let's get that done. So there you go. Got it wrapped around 3 times. Beautiful. Now we're going to take this. This is C21. And it's going to go on this long post right here. As far down as you can push it. Make sure you've waxed all the gears first. All right, now that we've got that waxed, note the arrow That'll be facing, that'll be facing here, this post, okay? There you go. Should look like that when you're done. Now, you've got 3 slots here. That is for M4. As before, plenty of scored areas for us to do our folds. And there you go. Look at that. Wonderful. Okay, now we've got 2 J13s, and they're going to go into the slots here and here. My apologies. Here, this slot, and here. All right, so there's one, and there's the other. All right. Now, we're going to come over here, and we've got this, which is J12, and these slots will go onto the slots here, just like that. And then on the tabs that are there, we have J14, which will go on here, just like that. All right. On to the next phase. All right, so here's what we need for this next phase. Still on step 4. What we're going to do, bring this back out again, and note the tabs there, those will go into these little slots to help keep everything aligned. All right, should look like this. Note that this little tab is going to go into a slot up there, and of course this slot will go around that, and that M piece will go into the little slots. So it should line up quite nicely. Now we're going to take J10 here. Make sure you wax the inside of that circular hole. Okay, nice and waxed. We're going to take J11 here, and that's going to go into this slot here. So we're basically going to push it in just like this. Boom. Now we've got J9, and that'll come in from behind through there. There we go, nice and locked in place. Okay. Now, note the little round hole. Take a while guessing what that's for. That's right. That is where our LEDs are going to go through. And the big post here will go through the round hole. We're going to want to try and line everything else up. Oh man, that was fun. All right. So we've got tab here, here, these two here, this tab, and this one. All have to go in, along with, of course, this, and this going through the appropriate slots, and our light string coming up through here. But we got it done. We got it done. Very nice. And now, because apparently doing this much earlier in the build would have been difficult, seriously, I have no idea why. We've got this M8 here. Note the 2 slots, okay? Those are going to line up with these slots here. But you're going to have to push it from the back, and then you have 2 of these E18 pieces that'll push through to hold it all in place. So I think I'm going to get those E18 pieces in first and then just try to slide them into the slots. All right, so that's what it'll look like from the front and there from the back. All right, on to the next phase. And here are the parts we need for this final phase of step 4. Finally! All right, so we're going to bring this thing back out and note the slot right there, okay? That is for J34 here. And basically what we're going to want to do is take the arrowhead part of this, push it down in there. So it looks like that. And now you might notice there's some cutouts on either side, right? Well, we are going to take our light string here and we're going to wrap it around those cutouts twice. There you go. Should look like that when you're done. And then what we're going to do is take J35 here, and that's going to go into this slot right here. Okay. Then we've got 2 of these J33s. Those will go into these outside slots there, with J31 going into the center slot, and J39 going on this post, pushing all the way down and inside that circular hole there. So it should look like that when you're done. And oh my God, we have finally finished step 4. Look at this thing. Holy crap. Let me get the power source back in so we can at least get it lit up. All right, there we go. We are all nice and powered up, lit up. Look at that thing. This piece, this is a complicated piece. It really is. I'm loving it, to be honest. I mean, these little windows and everything showing up the way they are. I mean, it's definitely looking great. And of course, the motion and mobility that we've got here. And I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but all of this was not lit at the moment. Okay. However, if we push this in and wait, and of course we're going to have to make sure that switch engages. But as it gets closer and closer, and that switch engages, I missed it. My bad. Let's do it again. Oh. There it goes. But when that switch engages properly, look at that. All of this all lights up. So that's another awesome little feature. Okay. So there you go. That is where we're at. We're going to have to call it for now. But we are about halfway done, even though we have not started work on the space shuttle part of our space shuttle build. But it is definitely looking great. And that's all I've got for today. So if you liked the video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you next time. Have a great day.